A quote from Clemson president from 2016 has recently came out, and man, does it impact our court case.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can follow me over on Twitter at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member for the Clemson Tigers in baseball, basketball, and football, where we are working with the Clemson Tiger Wire, which is right here, where we put out blogs and we're credentialed media through them. But we're bringing all that over here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are a part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. After you listen to this podcast, make sure you go check out one of the many other Locked On Podcast Networks, one of 200 podcasts. Go check out one of them, like the Locked On ACC show. Let that be your second listen of the day. But here on the Locked On Clemson, you're getting three things. You're getting all sports, all passion, all of the time. Today is Tuesday, July 16th. We're talking about three things. We're talking about the latest on the court trials and how that quote from the president hurts them. Talking about how this camp is going to be huge for some freshman wide receivers. And then we're going to give you a review on the latest college football game as it is out and we are playing it. So it's going to be a great day. We do want to thank our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDCONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so some of y'all are probably like, are we still talking about this court case and conference realignment? Other y'alls are like, we need to talk about it more. But we're going to talk about it today. It's not going to be the whole episode, but it is going to be this first one because there were some big happenings yesterday on Monday, the 15th, when it came down to the ACC and Clemson's trial. So just a quick catch up. I'm sure we've talked about this a lot, but there's 5 different court trials going on right now. There's Clemson versus ACC in Pickens County, ACC versus Clemson in Charlotte, Florida State versus ACC in Florida, ACC versus Florida State in Charlotte, and then a Florida Attorney General against the ACC in Florida as well. So those 5 court cases are going on, all of them covering on something different. Today we want to focus on one of them, which is the Clemson and ACC arguing over the grant of rights. Basically what this boils down to is years ago, ACC brought out a new contract to all the universities a part of it, and it was arguing the grant of rights. So what it said is, if these schools give the ACC the grant of their rights, which is the rights to stream all their games on the ACC network, whatever TV sponsors they have in place, which at that time was ESPN, and it still is obviously, but they are giving their rights. So ACC will do whatever they can to distribute the game. So Clemson is seen, and all the ACC schools are seen on a national level, but in return of that, ACC gets sole ownership of all their content until the end of the contract. The argument here is Clemson is saying if they buy out of the contract and leave early, the grant of rights comes with Clemson. ACC is saying, no, we have the grant of rights until this date, no matter if you're in the conference or not. So that's the argument. So if Clemson, let's say they leave the ACC, go to the Big 12 tomorrow, depending on this court case, it depends on if the ACC will retain rights or if Clemson takes the rights with them to the next university. So obviously, if Clemson goes to the Big 12 and they don't have the rights to their own games, Big 12 is going to be like, what are you even offering us? So it's a big trial. This determines a lot of factors. Well, one thing they're arguing about is how this contract, the Clemson's argument is that they are feeling like they were bullied into signing. They're stating at the president's meeting, the Clemson's president, Jim Clements, came out and he said that then all of the Clemson's attorneys are saying that Clemson felt bullied, that every time that there was some kind of meeting, they were told they had to sign it. Every single time ACC presented Clemson with anything, Clemson was told they had had to sign it. They said that it was a very intentional act, I'm air quoting, by the ACC to make sure it was kind of a power play. It was something that they had to get done. If you're in this meeting, you have to sign this paperwork as part of the conference. It's mandated. That's what Clemson is stating that they were much bullied into it. The ACC then responded, and they brought out this quote. So in 2016, right after the contract was signed with the current ESPN agreement, this came out at the ACC Council of Presidents. And the Clemson president, Jen Clement, said this at the time. It's a longer quote, but I really want you to hear it. And we're getting this quote from the Clemson Insider. It says, the ACC network will provide incredible benefits to our universities and our student athletes. This is a monumental time for the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it speaks volumes that this ESPN agreement, along with the grant of rights, was supported unanimously by the ACC Council of Presidents. Then on July 21st, 2016, at the ACC Football Kickoff Commissioners Forum, he said this. He said, throughout this entire process, my league colleagues and I were kept up to date by the tremendous work of the athletic directors. The ADs steer their respective athletic departments with a keen vision and a steady hand. That does not look good. That definitely 100% hurts Clemson's odds, hurts their chances, because what's basically being said is that Clemson's now like, oh, we were bullied into it, we had to sign it, but then they're pulling this quote that's like, yeah, ACC did everything they could, our athletic director did everything they could to make sure it was a good deal. This is great. This is great. It's all great. It's going to be great for the conference. That's not a good look at all. According to the ACC bylaws, there's three ways a conference can vote. It can vote. One way is a super major vote, in which 3/4 of the schools have to agree. The other is a major vote, which needs 2/3 to pass. The other is a unanimous vote, which the unanimous vote happens for the ESPN agreement. I'm gonna explain that a little bit better in case I didn't. Whenever the ACC is trying to pass something, there's three different levels of what they need in order to pass it. For instance, if they want to add a school, there's a specific need that they need to have. If they want to do this and they pass it needs a super major vote in order to win. Only 3/4 of the school have to agree in order for it to pass. If it's a major vote, 2/3 of the vote, 2/3 of the schools have to agree to, and then it passes. The third is a unanimous vote, which is where every single school has to vote yes in order for it to pass. If it's a no, then it's a no. When it came down to the grant of rights and ESPN agreement to pass in 2016, it was a unanimous vote. And that means that Clemson willingly agreed and chose to sign it. Where Clemson is saying they're feeling bullied, ACC's responding with, look at this quote, and you unanimously said that you would sign it. So that's a huge deal. That's a huge problem. I think that still could be there. I mean, honestly, if you're a Clemson president and you do feel bullied, if you're on the front of the media the next day, you're not going to get up there and be like, yeah, we just signed a 20-year deal, but we feel bullied, we're into it, we already regret it. You're not going to say that, because then what are you going to do for the next 20 years? Pout about it? Like, I get that. I see where he's coming from. But at the same time, it's kind of like on a very elementary level. If you come up to me and you're like, hey, can you let me borrow $10? And I'm like, yeah, just here's $10, pay me back in 2 weeks. And then a week later, I'm like, oh, you still haven't paid me back? I said 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of hesitation going on. There's a little bit there. So it's kind of worrisome. I'm not going to lie. This is a big thing that comes up. It feels like Clemson saying they didn't have a choice when the record books and what legal documentation is showing that Clemson had every chance in the world to say no. But it doesn't show the bullying. It doesn't show what phrases were being used inside that room. It doesn't show exactly what was being said or the demeanor in which it was being said. So there's a very real situation where both of these are real. It's kind of like if two people get in an argument, there's three different sides. There's person A side, person B side, and then the truth in the middle. That's the third side, and that's where the truth lies. That's probably where it is. It probably was. Clemson could have said no, but ACC was pushy and bullying on it, and so they both just met in the middle and said yes. So either way, not a great look. Worrisome for Clemson in regards to this case. They better pull something out with ACC in this legal battle, showing more proof of how this grant of rights is irresponsible, isn't reasonable. So yeah, we're going to continue talking about this in coming episodes. We're going to keep monitoring and bringing you up to speed on everything that happens. We're going to keep talking about football, and we're going to switch it up. We're going to talk about specific football style as we're getting closer to kickoff. Let's talk about some freshman quarterback or freshman wide receivers and what they need to do this offseason to have a big big impact. So we'll talk about that and more in just a second. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. And here we are on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are so glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for letting us be your first listen. We are so grateful to our everydayers. If you don't know what that term means, it means the people that turn into this show every single day. We are grateful for that loyal fan base. We're grateful for every listen. We've said this before, but the biggest act of a compliment you can give someone is your time. And so each of you that are giving up your time to come and listen to the show every day and listen to the show even once, we appreciate that. We are so grateful for that. And we want to make sure we do our part to return the respect that you're giving us and make sure we're bringing you up-to-date, high-content, high-value content. And so camp starts very soon. August camp is coming up soon. Kickoff is just about 6 weeks away. We are getting very close to kickoff. Cannot wait to be down in Atlanta for that game. But with that being said, at camp, there's going to be a lot of questions answered. Right now, there's questions about Clemson. They're on the defensive side. There's questions of can they replace their defensive players? Can they replace people drafted, the people that transfer or not transfer, or one transfer to Texas? The people that graduated, the people that graduated that were drafted, like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Nate Wiggins, Aurora. If we can replace those players, there's those big question marks. But I think a lot of people are feeling confident about that. Then the main questions go to the offense. You see, Clemson has had a terrible time at offense recently. We bring up this stat every once in a while, and it's a really big stat, and it's this. From 2016 to 2020, Clemson was third in the nation in QBR. From 2020 to 2023, Clemson was 74th. Huge drop-off. I mean, massive drop-off. And so with that being the case, the question comes, one, can Cade Klubnik be the guy? And we've addressed on other episodes, we believe he is. We believe he can be that guy. I think this is going to be Cade Klubnik's breakout year. In fact, he was listed as one of the top breakout candidates in the nation this year. This is a make-it-or-break-it year for Cade Klubnik. But what I'm going to talk about is something different. You see, a part of the problem when it comes down to Clemson, when it comes down to if they can make the playoff, if they can get back to that offensive prowess, is this. It feels like the past couple of years, Clemson hasn't been able to really have dominant, explosive wide receivers. I mean, fast forward years ago, you had some amazing receivers. I mean, all the way back to DeAndre Hopkins, fast forward to Sammy Watkins, Martavius Bryant, more recent T. Higgins, right? Like, we have Mike Williams. We have these amazing receivers that play really well. Recently, last year, the year before, we really don't have that breakout explosive deep threat or make it or break it wide receiver that we've had in years past. We have had some really good freshmen, right? We've had some freshmen 2 years in a row. We've had an all-team, all-conference, all-American, all-conference wide receiver freshman. Antonio Williams made that mark in the All-American honors in 2022. 2023, Tyler Brown did that last year, led catches and receiving yards, was a freshman All-American honors. This season, we have two wide receivers that I think this camp is really going to show some words on, shine some light on these abilities. And both of these wide receivers have a potential to repeat that All-American honors that two wide receivers have 2 years in a row. And those wide receivers are these. They're Bryant, Wesco, and then there is also TJ Moore. You see, these guys are talented players. They're very talented, but they're both coming in with a disadvantage. So Bryant Wesco is a little undersized. He's just a little bit undersized. Bryant Wesco, he's 6'2", so he's got good height. But he came into Clemson weighing 170 pounds. That's light. That's real light for a top program in the nation, D1 football. That's light. He needs to put on a little weight. So he came in December. He graduated high school early, and he's been on campus for a while now. But he's a little undersized weight-wise. TJ Moore, he's got the opposite problem. He didn't come into December, so he came in later than Wesco. He still came in a little earlier. He was on campus in May, moved in May, but he already weighs over 200 pounds. He's already there. He's got the size. He's a very different style. He's a 5-star. TJ Moore, he wasn't an early on read like we said, but he is a 6'3". He's already hit the 200-pound mark. Great player. The thing that I love about both these players is this. So they both have disadvantages. They both have this explosive potential where they can go down and they can make a threat deep. They have the potential to burn by their cornerbacks, burn by the safeties, burn by the defense, and make a huge play. Bryant Wesco in high school, he did that. Bryant Wesco came through and he did that. He showed the ability. He averaged 19.1 yards per catch as a senior. He shows the ability to consistently push the defense, to consistently get big field. TJ Moore was very similar to that. He also averaged 25.4 yards per catch in his senior year of high school. He posted 100 receiving yards 12 times over his last 2 seasons in high school. He's a beast. Both these players can prove they can be explosive. They have the ability to take over. They have the ability to go deep. This is going to be a big camp for him. Dabo Swinney on Bryant Wesco came out and he said, look, he's a great player. We're excited about what happens, but we've got to see if he can truly make a difference. We've got to see if he can put some weight on. He's already added 8 or 9 pounds, according to Dabo Swinney, so he's already almost up to 180. Dabo said in order for him to see some playing time, he's going to need to see him put on some more weight, continue to bulk up. In his words, Dabo Swinney said, we need a big summer, air quotes, big, as in he needs to get bulk, right? Growing season, right? Bulking season. TJ Moore, on the other hand, he seems a little bit more put together. His question marks are, can he learn the playbook? Can he use that? He's a couple months behind Wesco. Can he make up that ground? Can he learn in? Can he mesh with the team, learn the system, grow at that rate? I think they're both, according to, this is a quote by Dabo Swinney that we're getting from Clemson Insider. He said, I think they're both long, hard to cover one-on-one type of guys. They've both got a lot of natural instincts to them, both got natural ball skills, and very polished at this stage. That's why they're ranked so high. These guys have made a ton of plays, and they'll show up the day they get here expecting to be great in the mindset they bring. So I'm excited because I think both these players, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, I think in 2 years from now, they're going to be a tandem receiver crew. They're going to be 2 wide receivers that every team we play are going to be like, who do we guard? Because they're both going to be electric. I'm really excited about these. We saw Bryant Wesco's ability. He scored in that spring game. That was awesome to see. So the question is, can Wesco build up? Can TJ Moore bunk in? Who's going to be that All-American? Who's going to repeat as the freshman All-American for Clemson? The good news is this, though, to end it. Neither of these teams or neither of these players are going to have to put in tons and tons of reps, you know? One of the worst things for a freshman is to come in and overplay because then they don't have the time to develop. They get too jumped in. They get burnt out. They get discouraged. They don't have to do that. We have a very wide group of receivers. Now, these 2 are expected to lead them to be top players, but we still have Antonio Williams. We still have Randall. We still have so many great receivers that they're not going to have to play 70, 80 snaps per game. They're going to be able to dial it back some. They're going to be able to be a part of the core. Lead, but be a part of the core. So I'm excited. This camp is going to show if they can build up some muscle, if they can keep with the program, if they're going to be as electric as they came in expecting to be, or if they're going to be a little lower. So excited to see that. Excited to follow them through the camp season. And so with that being said, we're going to take a break. After the break, we're going to dive in. Hey, college football came out yesterday afternoon. We spent way too many hours grinding on that late last night. So we're going to talk about some of the best features. I know you can find a YouTube review out there for college football, but we're going to give you a Clemson insider view of college football. So we're going to talk about that after the break and more. So we'll see you in just a second. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, before we dive into this last section, we do want to mention this. we are launching a new feature later this week where we are bringing you into Locked On Clemson, and we are starting a new insider program where you could be an insider for a Locked On Clemson podcast. What this is it's going to bring benefits like one-on-one chats with me. Any time of the day, you can send me a text, you can send me a message, and I'll respond to it. I'll respond directly to you. We're also going to start doing segments for a question and a segment where when we get so many questions, we're going to come along and we're going to talk about some questions. We're going to talk about some detailed what's going on with the Clemson program. If you have a question, hey, what'd you feel about Bryant Wesco's performance or lack of ability, lack of starts, lack of possessions, whatever it is, you can ask questions that we will come up and we'll directly answer on the show. It's also going to be, we're going to send out texts to big things that happen in the game. So if something big happens in the game and you want to be like, hey, did you make sure you saw Barrett Carter watch his coverage right there that made that cornerback be able to get the pick? You can send messages like that. We can communicate and have a message back and forth, but during the games, all that kind of stuff. We're also going to have some bonus videos for our insiders. We're going to provide some content that we dive through, and we make videos, shorter videos or sometimes longer than our normal episodes. We're going to make videos just for our insiders that dive into more film study, that dive into more recruitment news, that dive deeper into Clemson athletics. So we're probably going to put on there some videos from our press conferences while we're in there. We'll record the press conferences that we go to for the games this year, and we'll put them on that insider programs where only you as insiders will be able to have access to those full press conferences. So if you want stuff like that, make sure you're out on the lookout. It'll be later this week. We'll release it where we will give you a number. All you have to do is text Clemson to that number, and that'll enter you in to be able to sign up and start getting a set up with our Locked On Clemson Insider program. We're excited about that. I hope you're excited about that. It's going to be great. But let's go and end this episode. We're going to talk about this. College Football 24 has came out, and man, it is a great game. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to dive into a couple different aspects of the game and just give you my thoughts, my feedback on it. Number one, the Clemson University in this game. Oh, man, is it great. Man, is this game. It makes me feel so much fun. We're playing this game, and I didn't realize how much I missed being in Death Valley until I played this game. I remember I was playing my first game. Who else? It was against South Carolina. So I'm playing South Carolina. I'm up by 7 late in the fourth quarter, and I stuff them. It's 2nd and 1, and I stuff them. Tackle for a loss, 3-yard blast. Barrett Carter breaks through the middle. Comes through, tackles their running back. 3rd and 4. As soon as that hits, all of a sudden, the band jumps in. The band plays, it hits on the third down song where if you've been to Death Valley, you know the song I'm talking about. If you don't, hit it up on YouTube. The Death Valley song plays, it rings. I'm pumping. I'm let's go. Like I'm shaking, I'm energetic, I'm excited. Ended up picking it off the very next play, and as soon as I do, the Tiger Rag plays. It goes off. For copyright issues, I can't sing it on here, but Tiger Rag starts going, and you better believe I have controller in my hand, running with one, and I'm going, I'm loving it. The game has Clemson environment to a T. It has the cheerleaders. The only thing I haven't seen is the Tiger doing the push-ups. It feels like that's the only thing from Death Valley that they didn't include in the game. So that's kind of bummed. Maybe it just didn't happen that one game, that first game I played, but I haven't seen that. But the rest of it, they have the running down the hill. It opens when you load into a game. It opens with players standing over the hill. Then you see the cannon fire and they run it down. Man, it's amazing. So love seeing that. Clemson in the game. Check mark. I'd give it a 9.2 out of 10 with Clemson because, it could always be improvement. But love to see that. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and this one's a little bit different, not Clemson-specific, but the gameplay. So I'm a big video games is how I release. It is very much I've been therapy. If you go to therapy, they'll tell you a couple things. They'll be able to how do you cope with stress and how do you distract yourself from stress. Both are important. Both are very different, though. Coping is how do you heal? How do you acknowledge it? How do you heal? And then distracting is just turning off your brain from stress. Well, video games is how I distract myself from stress. And obviously, big Clemson guy, big sports guy, I play a lot of Madden. And when this game came out, I was really worried that Madden was going to be, that this college game was just going to be another Madden. It was made on the same platform, on the same digital network that Madden came out on. So I was really worried about that, but it wasn't. This gameplay feels so great. It's a mixture. I was worried they would do one of two things. That would be the exact copy of Madden, that college football be all the way over here, the exact same as Madden, or it'd be very different where it felt like a completely foreign game, where it didn't resemble college football at all. The old games didn't resemble a football game in general, just felt like a completely foreign alien game. They matched it perfectly. There's different gameplay features. There's different movements. The players move at a different way, at a different skill. They killed the gameplay. I'm really happy with that. That was the biggest thing I was worried about, and they did great at it. Another feature is the Road to Glory, where you can create a player and you can go through and build your player up. So we've done that a couple of different ways. We started as a 5-star and got to start pretty much anywhere we wanted in the nation. That was fun. Then we also started as a lower star, and we tried to work our way up. So we're in the middle of that one. We started as a lower star, and we picked, and I know it's not too low, but it's Northwestern. I know it's in the Big Ten, but might as well. It's still in a Big Ten program. Still could try to get the playoffs. So we're working there. I think we were actually a 3-star went there. So we'll see how that one goes, but we'll update you on that if you want. But that one's good. The gameplay's cool. You can choose quarterback, halfback, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, and defensive lineman. So that one's a really fun game. We enjoy playing that. Enjoy playing in that mode. They got rid of the high school portion of it, which hit or miss. I think the high school portion was cool, but it was also really long. So I kind of like that it's not as long. You don't have to wait so much to be on campus. But at the same time, you just jump right in. You create your player, then it's automatically signing day, and you choose out of any university you want. So that one's a little different. Not a huge fan of that. So maybe they'll make a change in that in the future. But anyway, 2 more things we want to talk about the game. One is the dynasty mode, where you create a coach. We're doing these we have 2 different dynasties going on. Obviously, we have a dynasty playing as Dabo in Clemson University. Got to have that one. Is it great? It's great. You get to build the players up. You get to recruit. You get to look for transfers. I got a transfer at Clemson University. What? I know, crazy, right? It was crazy. I actually got the halfback, the great halfback out of Liberty right now. He was released at the 100th best player in college football. We got him to come to Clemson after this year, so he replaced Phil Maffa. But yeah, so it was great. The dynasty's great. A lot of cool features. We did an online dynasty. Me and Anthony, who you will see, he was a part of our Clemson Tiger Wire podcast. He'll be back on when Clemson plays NC State, hosting on here. But we're doing an online one with him right now, where we're competing for recruits. He's West Virginia. I am UCLA. We both did a smaller school, or a not as big football school, in a Power 4 conference to try to meet the playoffs. But we're going after different recruits together. So if you got friends that play this game, definitely a hit. Definitely dive into that. The features are really cool. The last one we want to do, and this one's Clemson focused. All right, if you've tuned out, this is Clemson focused. We did a dynasty with Dabo, and we turned on all the automation features. So basically, the only thing I have to do is click Advance Week. And I went through and I advanced it 3 years. So I advanced it 2024-5 season, 25-6 season, 26-7 season. I just wanted to see how far it had Clemson going, what the players had happening. This first year, it had Clemson getting in, I believe, as an 8 seed. Miami won the ACC. Clemson got in. We lost to Kansas State. So that was a bummer. Then next year, Clemson won the ACC, won the first matchup, won the second matchup. I think we lost our 3rd game. I want to say that when we lost to Ohio State. But that year, so next year, Cade Klubnik's senior year, and according to the video game, he wins the Heisman. So that would be, how amazing would that be to see? Cade would really silence some haters going on if that happened. And then the 3rd year was the fall-off year. Apparently, they didn't recruit any good quarterbacks. Clemson finished, I think, 5th in the ACC. They're still in the ACC, so is that predicting? But yeah, they finished 5th. No Heisman, no awards, anything like that. But yeah, so it's cool. Overall, the gameplay's really amazing. If you're a college football fan, you need to get the game. I'm not sponsored by them. If they want to sponsor me, cool, but I'm not sponsored by them. But you need to get the game. It just provides a whole new reality to where college football is no longer just September to January, or it is now anytime you want to play it, just like it used to be. Great nostalgia, great new. It's a mixture of nostalgia and new aspects. So you make sure you want to get it. It's a great game. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Later on this week, we're going to dive more into the court cases, conference realignment, as more of that come into play. Make sure you're on the lookout for new episodes every single day. Let us know your thoughts on today's topics. Reach out to us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens. Drop a comment if you're over on YouTube. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every day, this can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are trying to share this podcast. We're trying to get more followers, more subscribers, more listeners on audio platforms. So if you're listening to audio, it'd be a huge help to us if you could hit that 5-star review. Even a written review would be massive bonuses, would help us out so much. And then if you're on YouTube, as always, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, share the podcast with other listeners. That would be great. Make sure your other podcasts from Locked On Podcast Network are your second listen, because we have over 200 different shows producing great content every single day, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode. Until then, you know what to do. You keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.